Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154. Today we are following the TheDrLipa of the Paid For clan in the Tier 10 British light tank, the Manticore. Now, until this line was released, Britain didn't actually have any light tanks above Tier 4. One of the reasons I'd like to say my light tank game sucks so much because I spent a lot of my formative games in on the British line and just really hadn't played light tanks all that much. But anyway, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about the TheDrLipa, and quite a sensible spotting position for starters. Reasons will indicate. From here, he can spot anything heavy that's heading into this corner. He can spot anything that's heading up to this classic sniper nest here. He can get crossfire into anything that's trying to contest this little pocket, if need be. This is a really good starting position for a passive scout like Manticore to do, and it's something that this line of vehicles does exceedingly well is passive scouting. The only problem with passive scouting is that most people know or can have a decent guess at where the best passive scouting bushes are, and so you do have occasion to take blind fire as the TheDrLipa had done here from the Object 260. Nevertheless, they are continuing to pick up the spotting damage. We can see the enemy Rheinmetall Panzerwagen has got themselves into this D6 position. That's a very powerful position. It's probably better suited to active scouts rather than passive scouts. But what you can basically do, you can make this cross, you can drive up. It's sufficiently protected by terrain that any mediums or tank destroyers in this area, they can't actually draw a bead on you, and even if you did draw a bead and fire on them, you'd probably get spotted and shot from this position up here, and then once you're in there, you can see every part of the enemy team as it's trundling up the hill or trying to counter you. It's a very good position to be in, and very difficult to dislodge a player once they're in there. We can see TheDrLipa has exhibited a lot of restraint to actually shoot that Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. If it were me, I probably would have just clicked it and then gotten spotted and killed by all the mediums that are around here. So I guess that's why the TheDrLipa has made it this far in the tech tree, and I haven't, because they've just been able to exhibit a lot of restraint with this tank and with this style of gameplay. Thankfully, the Manticore is also a very small target. He's been able to actually avoid some potentially catastrophic damage. You can see there's been a couple of attempts to throw some high explosive shells at them. So the enemy has every suspicion that there is a passive scout in that bush. So most of the fight at the moment is developing on the hill at A0. I guess that's quite typical of Malinovka. Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is okay. So there's a 50-50 split there between spotting efforts of the TheDrLipa and the AMX 13105 that's working the north as well. But it's certainly making the German light tank work very hard. It's keeping it suppressed, so it's a little bit limited in the spotting efforts that it can make. But now that the battle has developed in this way as a spotting tool, that position probably doesn't matter so much now. There's sort of less in this field and in this cross that can present a target. So that position sort of somewhat loses its value unless some more of the TheDrLipa's teammates sort of move back in and around. Unfortunately, with the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, despite the fact that it is a has one of the better view ranges, 420 meters base view range. Its concealment rating is quite poor, and I guess that's owing to just the sheer bulk and size of the tank. That's characteristic of a lot of German light tanks, truth be known. Fortunately for the TheDrLipa, whatever was throwing the blind fires at him before is sort of backed out of the fight at the moment. There was an Object 260 that was trying to do that earlier, but it doesn't seem to seems to have given up that fight, which suits the TheDrLipa just fine. Again, a remarkable effort of restraint here. The fact is that the gunnery of Manticore just isn't that good. Amongst the tier 10 light tanks, it has the lowest damage per minute, and just a very slow reload time. As we can see, engaging that T100 LT has revealed the TheDrLipa's position, but they were prepared to make an escape as soon as they fired. A lucky escape there, actually. They've avoided gunfire on their escape. So I guess because you have such low damage per minute, quite a long reload between shells as well. You're under a lot more pressure to make every shot count, and I guess that has fed into TheDrLipa's loadout today, where they're actually carrying 18 premium shells and 2 high explosive shells. Not that there's actually a huge difference in the performance of the AP and APCR. You get 268 millimeters of penetration with the APCR, and that's up from only 248 on the standard AP. Consider that there are tier 9 vehicles that get over 260 millimeters of penetration just with their standard rounds. You can really get a sense of how undergunned this vehicle is at tier 10. But then again, the gun is not the main focus or strength of this vehicle. It's really more about its view range, decent view range, 400 meters, and its concealment rating, which is exceeded only by the EBR 105 by virtue of its small stature. Of course, the view range on this vehicle is far superior to that of EBR 105. But it does, box you into a play style of being a passive scout. But given the opportunity to occasionally be a sort of a sniping passive scout, a bit of a high roll there on the Leopard 1 there with 455 hit points inflicted. That's up from an average of 390. So that's going to limit the ability of that tier 10 German medium tank from influencing this fight further. But they're down to some fairly light vehicles at the moment, between Leopard 1, AMX 13105, Grill A15, UDES 1516, probably the only thing left on their team that counts as being anything remotely armoured. So at this point in the game, it's really going to be more about vision and focused fire. Having a look at the enemy team, and there's a few low hit point enemies there, but the Object 260 still has a decent whack of hit points left. We can see the TheDrLipa changing angles. The chances are the enemy thrust is going to be all about that Object 260. It seems to be where a lot of the hit points are concentrated. And if it's able to be an effective heavy tank scout, then there's a chance that TheDrLipa's teammates will start to get picked off one by one. Bearing in mind, they are roughly equal on hit points, but they are 3 guns down, so this becomes quite important to make every shot count. Progetto 65 comes into vision with just under 540 hit points left, which is probably going to take 2 shots for most of the team. So that's potentially 2 vehicles that will be exposed in engaging Progetto 65. UDES 1516 on the enemy team also making a move up the south towards the friendly UDES 1516. So that will be an interesting contest among equals, although the friendly vehicle seems to have the advantage of hit points. Object 260 playing low, making the most of its turret armor. TheDrLipa picking up a bit of extra spotting damage. I'm not quite sure who put that shot in, but likely the Leopard 1, I would suggest. Object 260 charging in. They're being engaged by the AMX 13105 and the Leopard 1, but everyone sort of pulled their shot, and it's actually the Grille 15 that's positioned behind the TheDrLipa at the moment that was able to land that killing shot. Progetto 65 and Leopard 1 going for the bait and trying to run down the AMX 13105. That's actually a pretty smart play, because what that will do is start to improve their diversity of firing angles. But if they've been able to draw the mediums off and away from the cap circle, and there's a Rheinmetall Panzerwagen that the TheDrLipa has been able to find, and very handy crossfire there from the AMX 13105 has been able to shut it down. Unfortunately, they've now found themselves boxed in between the 121B and the Progetto 65 on the hill. AMX 13105, just looking at the minimap, is tried to escape, but not quite able to pull it off. We've got a very low hit point, UDES 1516 making the cross with a Jagdpanzer E100. It's actually on full health. They've taken a very meaty hit from the Grille 15 on the way in. Swing and a miss there by the TheDrLipa. You can just see how excruciating this reload is going to be. You think about it as a passive scout. If you get rushed, I mean, sure, you can shoot and you can claim 390 hit points off the enemy, but then what? The enemy is then on top of you. Catching the 121B as they reposition, another swing and a miss. So that's unfortunately looking like we can reload before getting into play. We may need to eat a round from the 121B, although every hit point counts at this point in time. Running deep, they've been able to identify the enemy self-propelled gun. Taking another round, not sure who that was. Oh, that was from the Leopard 1. The 390 hit points of Alpha, not enough to send the T92 heavy motor carriage back to the garage, but the second one ringing true. They now have a modest numerical advantage. It's the Leopard 1 that's left on the enemy team. Now, the TheDrLipa has actually just formed a battlefield platoon with the Leopard 1. That's a secret source that's going to help us a little bit later. More on that. So it's now up to the TheDrLipa and this Leopard 1 to try to develop some crossfire and capture this Leopard 1. They've only got 154 hit points left, so it's easily one-shottable by either of these vehicles. And the Leopard 1 has gone for the path of least resistance to try and knock out the TheDrLipa, but the TheDrLipa ends up picking up their 4th kill of the game instead. So that's a win, quite a close one, really coming from behind there on the scoreboard. Let's take a look at the results. Despite best efforts and roleplay, we didn't quite manage an Ace Mastery badge this time around. We have come away with a level 1 Mastery badge, and when I were to look at what the Ace Mastery requirements were at the time, they weren't too far off it. They've also picked up these 2 epic medals. There's the Brothers in Arms medal, where it is awarded when every member of a platoon inflicts at least 3 kills. So that was a little bit strategic. That was from forming that last-minute battlefield platoon with the friendly Leopard 1. So that's a really handy medal to have, quite rewarding as well. There's also the Patrol Duty medal, where they've assisted team damage by lighting up at least 6 enemy vehicles, but the key is you basically have to be the only vehicle that had seen those vehicles at the time that they took the damage, which is really indicative of an isolated forward scout. So very well done there, and very good role play for the Manticore. We've also picked up a few badges of merit here. We've got the Spotter Medal, pretty evident from this sort of assist damage. Look at this, over 8,000 hit points of assist damage claimed from the enemy. They've also got the Fighter Medal for destroying 4 to 5 enemy vehicles in one battle. It's kind of the precursor to the Top Gun, so 4 kills inflicted there, very handy. And the Duelist Medal for destroying at least 2 enemy vehicles that have caused damage to the vehicle in turn, which I suspect would be the 121B and the Leopard 1. Having a look at the team score, we have a top by experience placement. That's followed up by the Leopard 1 and the VZ55, all of whom had put up a very strong fight. And you can see we don't have a massive spread in the experience points, so that is very indicative of everyone working very hard. On the enemy team, special mention to the Object 260, who'd claimed nearly 5,000 damage, 60 TP, and T95 Chieftain also performing well up on the hill. Having a look at the detailed report, we can see this turned out to be a moderately profitable game here for the TheDrLipa, but of course that's fed by personal reserves, bonuses and missions payouts. So I guess if you were to take that off, is actually at a 45,000 credit deficit. That's in large part due to the consumables that were running, and also having an exclusively premium loadout. Again, you don't have great DPM. You don't. You only cause 390 hit points of damage per shot, and your standard penetration is only 248 millimeters, which is pretty low by comparison to a lot of tier 10 vehicles. So I guess I can't really blame them for going there. So not quite an ace, but still a crucial contribution to a very close battle. So very well done there to the TheDrLipa of the Paid For clan in the tier 10 British light tank, the Manticore. It now could be yours in the on-track event that is currently running. I believe this vehicle will remain on track until the 20th of March, and sadly the on-track events, we are told, will be perma-tracked. The only reason I can think of for that is that these on-track events may cause a lack of diversity in the sort of games that we see out and about in World of Tanks. That whatever's on track, that seems to be a bit more heavily represented in the lineup of vehicles. We know that WarGaming is conscious about the diversity of its matchmaker, and it even went so far as to pull some vehicles from sale during the early stages of the game, when there wasn't a huge diversity of tanks to begin with. They've since added so many more tanks since then, but yeah, they had removed both E25 and Type 59 from sale just because there were so many of them represented in everyone's games. So they've taken the foot off the gas and have been sort of slowly reintroducing them a bit more recently. I guess now that there is a broader diversity of vehicles, and they're doing so in a way that these vehicles don't seem to be influencing the ecosystem of vehicles in the matchmaker quite as much anymore. So that's my rant. Hopefully, in the absence of on-tracks, we will see some other sort of event where you can accelerate your crew training, or you can have opportunities for bulk experience points injection. That's the thing I really liked about the on-track. But we shall have to wait and see what happens. In the meantime, if you've got a game that you'd like to share with the community, then please reach out over Discord or any of the links below, and we'll do our best to sort you out. Please do check the About section of this YouTube channel, because that has most of our community submission guidelines. We have deviated a little bit here. We normally like to see ace games if we're not showcasing personal missions completion, but obviously the tightness of this game had made it quite an attractive one. So thank you, Dr. Lipa, for sharing it with us today. In the meantime, take care out there.